Shalom, La Bachayayim Shal Yashala. Peace be to the elect of the nation of Israel. Wa call Layim La Allahayna wa Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Chakodash. All praise to our power, Yahweh, which is the true, almighty, and powerful name of the Heavenly Father, and His only begotten Son's name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, who the world again calls Jesus Christ. Bahashem meaning the name, Rechad meaning spirit, Kodash is holy, which I utter in the Paleo Hebrew, which is the language that has been returned back unto the Hebrew Israelites, which consists of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and those Israelite foreigners whom been scattered abroad, dispersed throughout the various nations across the earth, various islands. To you, of course, I say Shalom. Of course, this is all for the elect, which are to hear this word and be sealed, to take heed to the warning which is being sent out by the prophets, which the prophets speak the words of the Lord, giving you warning to cleanse your way, to repent, to be deeply sorrowful, back to your power, which is Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, and of course by Hashem Chakodash, in the name of the Holy Spirit, which we come through. So you say Shalom again. Shani Kabad La Shalayach Kim Nawa was a Konyam Nawa Shal Yasha'Allah. Peace be to the, or actually double honor, Shalakia. Double honor is Shunya Kabad. La is to Shalayach Kim Nawa is our apostles. Was a Konyam Nawa is and elders. Shal Yasha'Allah of Israel. And try a great millstone, Godwalla Rakub. Godwalla Rakub means great millstone, Baha Bariyath, Baha Lashman Kodash, in the Hebrew and the Lashman Kodash. Shemya Amapa, my name is Amapa, my Yan Great Millstone Plain Tables Camp, from the Great Millstone Plain Tables Camp located here in the city of Philadelphia, coming again with another lesson. So, we have here full-on trade war. Trump jacks up tariffs on $550 billion of Chinese goods. Blast unfair response. And I have another article or piece of information, or it's actually going to be a video from the Money GPS, which he of course compiles a lot of the different information and makes these various videos, which highlights the economic growth, economic decline, various signs that are telling with the numbers which are being published, and also all that is being shown through the economics, which you're going into economics, going into the economy, going into household management, which is he's a good, excellent source of information. He shares and breaks stuff down. And I'm not at all a financial expert, but of course we here at Great Millstone give you the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding according to the scriptures, and we have the understanding of what ultimately this leads on to, which this will end, of course, to the financial collapse, which will bring in, of course, the RFID market chip, which is the mark of the beast, also known as the NFC chip in the East. So without further ado, I'm going to get in this, and I'm going to bring up that video. It says U.S. President Donald Trump has announced yet another major hike existing in future tariffs, which tariffs, of course, is various taxes that are placed upon goods, which is a duty or tax paid on particular class of imports and exports on some of the $550 billion in Chinese goods, criticizing Beijing, being China, attempt to offset losses as unfair and politically motivated. Duties on the 250 million worth of Chinese goods already taxed at 25% will increase to 30% starting on October the 1st. It says the U.S. president tweeted on Friday, enraged that Beijing darted to respond to his previous tariff jab. In addition, he said the 300 billion in imports set to be taxed at 10% starting on September 1st will be taxed at 15% instead. So you see, the nation of Edom, which Donald Trump is an Edomite. The central bankers are Edomites. The head of them, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and the DuPonts, they're Edomites. They're from the house of Adawam, Bayath, Shali, the Adawam, which means red, which Esau has that curse. Edom has that curse, which Esau is Edom, of not having leprosy, though some of our people do look like, you would say, having the lack of melanin. But I'm speaking chiefly of Donald Trump and all these other elite bankers. They're Edomites. They're the wicked, and they of course go back on their word. As you see Donald Trump raising up these different taxes, these sanctions. You have here Donald Trump in a tweet said unfair trading relationship. China should not have put new tariffs on 75 billion of United States products, politically motivated. Starting on October the 1st, the $250 in goods and products from China will be taxed at 25% and will be taxed at 30%. Additionally, the remaining 300 billion, which I just basically said already, it says the latest salvo in raging U.S. trade war ante up after Beijing applied duties of its own 75 billion in American goods, sending U.S. market in a tailspin. Chinese countermeasures envisage 5 to 10% duties American farm products, including beef, pork, soybeans, and it says a 25% duty on cars, and at the first time tax on crude oil, U.S. crude oil, that is. It says the U.S. stock market index fell presumptuously on Friday, with the Dow Jones plummeting 700 points. At one point, Trump threats to cut off all trade with Beijing when he virtually ordered U.S. companies to immediately start looking for an alternative to China. I mean, China is, if not the most major trading partner with the United States. Mostly all of your goods come from China, made in China, I must note. It says here that still unsure who was a bigger enemy to the United States, Chinese President Xi Jinping on the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Trump spent Friday trying to convince his Twitter followers that China was a sole aggressor in this trade war. Since the beginning of the conflict in 2018 March, Trump has been playing the victim card, routinely labeling China as a currency manipulator that steals U.S. technology. That's going to that Huawei stuff, I believe, and kills thousands of Americans with synthetic opioids. The fentanyl you're speaking of is coming from China, which you have that coming into the country via U.S. ports. So you can, of course, put a cap on that, but you Edomites, of course, do wickedness and work wickedness upon your bed. So, of course, the blame is being pushed on these other countries, but who, of course, is in control of all the assets in the world? These Edomites. It says here, in between a futile trade talks. So it says U.S. businesses are growing increasingly desperate over the stalemate, urging Trump to put the tit-for-tat trade war on hold and seek common ground with Xi. The U.S. tech industry is set to lose billions as Trump seems to determine to cut off Chinese companies like Huawei from American markets, which of course, Huawei is a Chinese company. Technology group that provides telecommunication equipment and sells consumer electronics, smartphones, etc., etc. It says from American markets, despite temporary reprieve. Meanwhile, U.S. agriculture already beset a catastrophic rainfall, flooding, and tornadoes over the past year is starting to plummet. It's starting at a plummeting returns as China, one of its largest customers, looks further afield for farm products. America is just going to destroy itself with these various tactics, these Edomites. This is going to lead towards famine. This country is going to obviously fall. And it is, of course, in its phases of falling. Currently, Slakia, which you see the Lord, of course, making his way through the storms. You visiting the earth through these storms, destroying all these crops. These farmers are killing themselves via suicide. You have, of course, them placing them in more debt financially. And you have it where these other nations are refusing to do business with the United States or looking elsewhere to get their or provide or acquire agriculture goods. So, as for example, China getting their, I believe their soybeans and such, one of those crops from, I believe that's going to be Brazil. You have, of course, the various famine that's been going on. You have a lot, of course, in the the Midwest or most of the various crops are grown. You have the rainfall that is still have these crops submerged, and they don't have the ability to replant. So that's a famine. Okay, so that's basically it of this article. I'm gonna now go to the Money GPS, which he had a pretty great you say a show yesterday, and I suggest Hakim, of course, check out Money GPS. So they have it here: into abyss. These industries falling down rapidly. Huge signal of recession right now. You have Donald Trump. He's been refusing to acknowledge that we are, if not in a recession already, are going to a recession or basically a whole collapse. Donald Trump keep on falsifying information, giving it to, of course, the people whom does not go into the research for themselves. You have all these U.S. jobs numbers, 500 that's over 500,000 worse than you were being told. Biggest change since 2009. You have all of these various businesses that have been closing down, mass job cuts, 7,500 plus stores closing, global economic fallout. all of these signs are of this decline. So we're gonna play this. It's like it. Give me one moment.
And market cap. We have unemployment and jobs numbers. But if we are willing to go a level deeper, we can start to have a better understanding of the current situation. Today, we can clearly see that there is a global economic slowdown that is taking place, but you have to be willing to hear the truth.
Now, if you have a global economic slowdown, which I believe when you go into the definition of a recession, we'll go into that real quick. Okay, recession. Okay, recession is, I believe it's a halt of all the global. Okay, so you have it here, recession. In economics, a recession is a business cycle contraction when there is a general decline in economic activity. Recessions generally occur when there's widespread drop in spending. You have, of course, many people, they're not at this time spending money. Most people are in, of course, debt, this being a credit-based system, using the fiat currency, not, of course, backed by gold or silver, then that US dollar, which, of course, is of course issued by the Federal Reserve, which is a private entity outside of the United States. Okay, which they have the whole world in subjection to it, because you have it, of course, these various nations have to exchange their currencies into US dollars or petrodollars, and doing, of course, their various trading, which, of course, plunged them further into debt. People, of course, are not even going on these various vacations. You have it that people that retire they are living a more frugal life, being that most people can't afford to retire too. So a lot of people also are just working past retirement age, at these various are returning to work after retiring because they can't afford the cost of living. Of course, having that fixed income. You have it here now. Going on further, it says here that, referring to the recession, this may be triggered by various events such as financial crisis, external trade shock, adverse supply shock, and bustling economic bubble. Okay, so that's just some things. Now let's go to this video again and play it. Listen along, Shemai.
And that's why you came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to talk about an issue that is very apparent to those who are paying attention, but if you're not, you will be completely oblivious to what we will discuss. Let's get into it right away. Elkhart, Indiana is flashing a warning sign that a recession could be just ahead. This is the first topic I want to discuss. There are two main topics here. I'll show you some charts, show you some information. Look at this. Capital of the country's recreational vehicle industry, the northern Indiana city, and the surrounding area are watched by economists and investors for early indications of waning consumer demand for luxury items, often the first sign of economic anxiety. Shipments of recreational vehicles to dealers have fallen about 20% so far this year, after a 4.1% drop last year. This is
right, which you have a lack of consumer confidence. Okay, that's going on. Customers aren't buying. You have, of course, these various auto manufacturers. You have cars that are not selling on the lots. You have this, which is going to go into the various RVs too. So nothing's being sold, so that money is not being pushed back into the economy. So you have, of course, also these various, a lot of these different automakers are halting to make various particular types of vehicles what they previously used to manufacture or produce or engineer. So you see, of course, a major change that's, of course, occurring. And most people in general are just buying these cars, taking out loans that they can't pay back. Especially, I can note that to women. Now, let's go on.
It's important because you have to see what individuals are doing with their spending. Look at the amount of debt they have, and then look at the composition of that debt. What makes up that debt? Is it mortgage? Is it credit card, student, so on? The RV industry is better at calling recessions than economists are. Softening consumer demand for RVs coupled with rising vehicle prices due to tariffs suggests that the economy is either in a recession or soon headed for one. We have seen...
Right, so these tariffs, of course, are doing a negative impact on the economy. You, of course, have it that these... Of course, you have it, these goods that are being brought into the country. You have it that the actual, the exporter, or I believe that's of course, if you're a country and you're buying goods, you have to, of course, pay a tax, okay, on that good. And then, of course, you have to sell that good, which that, of course, means that you're going to end up having higher prices for the consumer. Now, if you have, of course, consumers whom don't make enough money, you're gonna be a lack of course, of buyers. So you're gonna have a lot of these goods that are just gonna sit on a lot and lose their value, ultimately over time. And thus you have all of this halt in economic growth. So this is all, of course, going to just bite Esau in the arse. So going on.
I've seen many economists that have actually suggested that the world is currently in a recession. The absolute peak of the market was January 2018. But you have to look at this on more than one level than, let's say, the CPI or the core PCE inflation or the U3 unemployment. No. We have to look at this at a much deeper level. Check this out. You need food, you need clothes, but you don't need an RV. When people are starting to feel less confident about their job prospects, their 401k, the broader economy, they're going to feel less confident about buying an RV, and that's what you are seeing right now. They are talking...
Right, because you have a lot of these various jobs are laying people off. You have it that a lot of people, you have it that there's also not enough workers in the workforce to support most of these so-called pensions. This economy is through. It's the mum. And if you're not paying attention, you're gonna be, of course, caught confused when it actually does crash, thinking that you, of course, saved up all of this money, okay? Or whatever money you have, you thinking that's a sense of security. That's not a sense of security. Okay, it says in the scriptures, which I'm going to just, get a quick scripture real quick. See if we can find a precept on this one. Okay, so alright, this is gonna be the book of 1 Timothy 6 and 17. Alright, let's see what this says real quick. Slakia. It says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded. It says, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living power, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. So, we're supposed to basically command, all right, them that are rich in the world not to be high minded, which we're going to go into that word for high minded. Okay, so you think you, of course, have various wealth, assets, and you depend upon it. You ain't supposed to be proud, okay, lofty in mind, arrogant, okay. You're really supposed to trust in Yahweh Shem Shai and have a mawan or faith by in Amath in this truth in Yahweh Shai, which can sustain you. It says in order to trust in uncertain riches, all right, just to make a proven about, obviously if our money is in the back by, of course, gold and silver, okay, you just of course got this paper that's being printed out, and more and more, of course, you're receiving less for what, of course, you actually are buying, and your wages, you're not even getting a pay hike or increase in your wages at your jobs. This, of course, is doing a major damper on the souls of especially the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and the Americans, and the Israelite foreigners, which the Israelite foreigners being those that have been scattered across the various nations, across the four winds, but also upon you have the various nations which are in subjection to Esau. Even Esau, his own people, they of course are suffering due to the hands of the elite bankers. So you have it here, nor trusting to certain riches. Okay, so uncertain riches, we're going to go to James, I believe, the 5th chapter. It's uncertain to trust in the dollar. Okay, that's uncertain. Which, when you work, you're of course just, you have to pay tax. There's interest, all right. It's usury. It's wickedness. It says here, in the book of James 5:1, it says here, go to know, or now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. All right, speaking to you, various bankers, economists, okay, household managers. It says your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth eaten. Okay, which corrupt, of course, go back to the Greek, sapeo, I believe, which it means to be rotten. Of course, it's being decayed. Okay, it's losing its. It don't even have a value, really, to be honest. It's just shoot. It says your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you. And obviously, you see, as this money continue to degrade, the pound fall, the dollar falls, all of these various currencies are, of course, becoming less and less and less. You have it where it's being a witness. People are seeing that, okay? People are then now, of course, going and buying silver and gold. A lot of the various countries, Russia, they're, of course, increasing their gold reserves and such. Okay? And the United States don't like this, okay? It says, and it shall be a witness against you, and ye shall eat your flesh as fire. It were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. It says here, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you, kept back by fraud. crieth. Right. It says, behold, the hire of the laborers which who have reaped down your fields, do the work, Baha Shadaka, in your fields. All right. Which is of you kept by fraud, crieth. And you have it that a lot, of course, of these various workers, I can speak myself, we, of course, are we're crying out. We like, damn, man, could we get another a pay hike, or can we get some more bread? Okay, but we can't, because you devils are doing all type of sly, slick, wicked financial practices. Okay, down to your investing. Okay, so I wanted to look up that word for fraud, which in the Greek you hear or have the term, which is opostereo. Let's see what it pronounced as.
Strong's G 650. Apostereo. Apostereo.
Apostereo, which it means here to defraud, rob, literally robbing, okay, and despoiling. Okay, you literally robbing, all right, or raping, because you season and arresting. Okay, Slovakia. Which this will go, of course, into my major precept, which is going to be in the book of Job, which was the original inspiration of the lesson, even from Yah Bashim Shai. It says, crieth. It says, which is kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. All right, or you have it, the Lord of course, I believe it goes into Lord of armies. Let me see, it's like here we go into Sabbath. Yeah. All right. Lord of armies. All right, Atazabat Awath. All right, just so that you know. Okay, in Hebrew. All right, which that's the cries of the Israelites. Okay, who crying continually. Okay, we're gonna go to now the book of. This is all through the Spirit right now. The book of Sirach chapter 4. Sirach chapter 4. Where we at, Slakia? Starting at the top, I believe. It says, my son, defraud not the poor of his living, and make not the needy eyes to wait long. Esau, of course, have it where you're being paid bi-weekly. You're not getting paid at the end of the day, which that's how you, of course, should do it. You should, of course, get paid by the end of the day. Okay. Esau is just so fucking wicked, and man, that's just shit. That's just plain, It's like if man, well, the rude speech it is what it is. If you don't like it, just turn it off. But men of the Lord use speech. Though I be rude in speech, but not in knowledge. Reading on, it says, make not a hungry soul sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress. And Esau definitely will do that. Esau hold back the checks. Esau give you, of course, make you work overtime against your will, or suggest and try to manipulate you to work overtime. And, of course, his crafty, wicked deceit, you thinking, of course, you have to work these overtime hours and such in order to be a more valuable player or a more valuable employee in his whole pit, which is a system. When really you're just nothing but a expendable commodity. You have it where Esau actually pushes a man to, of course, madness. And that's why you see a lot of these various Jake flipping out on these different bosses. And you have, of course, all these dreadful events that occur from Jake finally just snapping. And we're under the curses. We know that, of course, cursed out it shall be our basket in the store. But Esau just so wicked. Esau give himself wage increases and such. Leave Jake loyal that been working the entire time for him, doing all his various favors, doing all of the things in which he's told to do as a slave, or as an abad, which is slave in Hebrew. Of course, never compensate him, okay, rightfully. It says, add no not more trouble to the heart that is vexed, and defer not to give to him that is in need, right? Which we need more money, okay? A lot of these workers, laborers need more money, all right? But they ain't giving it. These Edomites ain't giving it. It says, reject not the supplication of the afflicted, which supplication deals with begging, all right? Neither turn away thy face from a poor man. Turn not away thine eye from the needy, and give him none occasion to curse thee. For if he curse thee in the bitterness of his soul, all right, Napashwa, his soul, his prayer, the Palath, his prayer, shall be heard of him that made him, which that's the Most High, Yahweh Shem El Shai. Okay. So, you got to understand and do thy precepts in that. Alright, so now I'm just going to probably play some more. And then, there's spirit, I may, of course, stop and just do maybe a part 2 or something like that. Maybe we'll see what happens. I don't want to make these lessons too long and drawn out. Just want to make them quick and to the point. So I'll play this again.
Talking about the tariffs in here, they're talking about the price increases and how the manufacturers are dealing with the issue, and of course how this impacts the customer. There's also something that I wanted to mention, is that more people today are living in their RVs as their personal residence. Some of them are doing this, of course, because they like the lifestyle. This is what they want to do. But I believe that there are so many who simply cannot afford a home, who have had to sell their homes, and they are now living in their vehicles, whether it is an RV or whether it's some sort of van or anything else that they can get their hands on. Today, we have economic conditions that are not in line with what we are being told. Okay, so we're being told that everything is good, economy is good, employment is fantastic, and yet there are more people than ever before who don't technically qualify as being homeless. Maybe they do have a job, but yet they're living in their vehicle. This is completely out of whack. And of course, you're not going to get that in traditional metrics. RV.
Right. So you have it where a lot of people, of course, they kind of course, afford these mortgages. They lose jobs. And of course, you have that loan that was taken out. You can't pay it. You have, of course, obviously this whole fluctuating, markets and such. Okay. You have it that you can't pay. So then, of course, you go into foreclosure eventually. You lose everything. So then people are now forced to do what? They're living in their cars, their vehicles. They're abandoning, taking out, obviously, or even continuing to live in homes. They're getting into what they call van life. Someone may, of course, go and convert a van to be a full-time dwelling, having, of course, electric inputs. Even sometimes, a lot of times too, showers, bathroom, and of course a bedding, cabinetry, and of course they, for parking, a lot of them are. I know, of course, out in California at least, they, stay on these reserved parking lots and such, and if not, you just stay where you can, try to lay low. Hopefully nobody breaks in while you're asleep. Or if you do come across the trouble, somebody knocks on your window, you of course just get out of there as quick as possible, so you ain't have no trouble. But this is the new America, where your so-called American dream is really living in a car of your car with your, and then you have it, full families are doing this now too. You go and work in a job, you're going to sleep and washing up in a gym. You of course are forced to eat shite food and be a vagabond. Okay, simple as that. A wanderer. Okay, having no home or nothing. And that's what Esau has done. Okay, you have a lot of the bitter laborers, which ultimately this is going to lead towards them coming against Esau. The whole world's going to come against Esau for what he's done. That's of course Esau, Edom being the wicked. All right.
And the economy. While RV shipments have generally been steadily rising this decade, past multi-year drops have preceded a recession. And I just wanted to show you this. If you see how this was leading up to the financial crisis, we had the same exact pattern. I do believe it is too early to tell, but if this is any idea, we could be heading into a recession using this as one potential indicator. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but of course, ultimately, over the next few months will be very, very telling. It goes beyond just the tariffs. It goes far deeper into what central banks are doing on a daily basis to manipulate the monetary system. RV shipments changed from a year earlier. Just take a look at how that has dropped off.
Ultimately, these elite, they want this economy to crash so they can bring in, of course, the NWR, New World Order, to bring in the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast. The answer to the monetary system issues. Let's make a digital, cashless society. Everything's on a chip or in your brain, in your forehead.
As it goes into the negative, that is a warning sign. In the past, we have seen this before, recession after recession, just like the yield curve inversion that we've talked about so much, just like all of the other indicators that have piled up. This is a very interesting one, and of course, I wanted to bring that to you. Tariff-related price hikes have forced manufacturers to pass on some of the increased costs through higher RV prices, which in turn has contributed to slower sales. I've heard this.
Yeah, so you have, of course, the different manufacturers pass on the increased costs in which that means the higher price for the actual RV. You have it where there's been these various taxes on steel and all these various things, which would of course be a part of the components of the vehicle. There's taxes, so you have it where these companies got to try to make a profit, but really ultimately they're not. You have it slower sales, if not, they're basically declining. All right, declining, slower sales, sales are declining. Okay, which that's going to ultimately lead to a complete recession. Okay. It says as the dealers cut orders, so do you have it where the automobile dealers are cutting the orders, because you have it when you go to that lot, nobody is going to pay for a car, being obviously having the lack of income to pay for that car payment or go accept a loan. Okay, and then you can't pay for it, then you have the car repossessed from you. Okay, it says many plants furloughed workers, meaning laid off or reduced hours. And this reduction of hours and such, that's a telltale sign of you, of course, losing your job. When they cut out these hours and such, these different jobs do that at first cut your hours, and then then you might see the place just close down completely. Okay, it says include Renegade, which has reduced the head count by 160, about by 10 workers. You have, of course, a lot of these different jobs are working with you would say a scarcity of labors. You have it where you go into a wee market and such. There's only one or two lines, and you have actual queue, all right, of customers lined out, way down the aisles and such. Okay, this of course is Esau going down.
This argument before that we will have the manufacturers or the businesses simply cut from their profits. This is not going to happen. Maybe for a temporary period of time, maybe they can absorb some of that shock, but not on a long-term basis. They're not going to do this. They haven't been doing this, and of course we see the effects. Prices will rise if there is an increase in the supplies, in the transport, something along the lines. Look at what airlines did. The price of oil,
They gotta pay, of course, to get the actual raw materials to create these various, engineer these various things, goods, cars, etc., and as well, which I almost lost my train of thought. Then, of course, you gotta factor in transport, shipping. Okay. There's another point I want to make. Let me just run this back a wee bit more.
will rise if there is an increase in the supplies, in the transport, something along the lines. Look at what airlines did. The price of oil went up, so they said, well, now we got to charge you a tax on your flight. That's nothing to do with us. It's the fact that fuel has become more expensive. Sorry, that's just what we have to do. So they charge you this tax on top of it. They try to suggest it's out of their hands. Ultimately, doesn't matter. The consumer is paying more. This is a very real example I'm sure everybody can relate to.
Which ultimately, this whole trade war thing, the consumer is the one who's the one at loss. It's the consumer. Trump think he's making America great again, but he's not. We obviously know he's not, because you see all of this negative data, decline, slow, halt. You have volatility. Okay, all these different things. You don't have it. Stability here. Okay. Which I'm gonna pretty much go to my next scripture, which is gonna be Zephaniah 10? Zephaniah 1 and 10, if I'm not mistaken. It's either Zephaniah or Zechariah 1 and 10. It reads here. Alright, so this is Zephaniah chapter 1 and 10. It shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord Yahweh, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate. Right, which you have a quawal, a noise, right? Which that goes into a voice, quawal. Okay, voice or sound. Okay, in Hebrew, Bahabariath, quawal is our voice or sound in Hebrew. Okay, which are crying out. Okay, and that's gonna come from these various financial analyzers, economists. Okay. It says a noise of cry from the fish gate. The fish gate goes into your. You go for the fish gate deals with the marketplace. which you go into, of course, you got the various, you go into the whole stock market and such, the stock exchange, okay, where you have various commodities, okay, that are traded, for capital or profit or gain. And of course, the fish gate, like I said, that goes into, the markets, all right, Esau economics, all right, which that, as I said, goes in import, export, stocks and bonds, okay, Wall Street, okay, which the ancient fish gate, that's just the marketplace, okay. You go into this here for gate, which is sha'il. Dag is a fish in Hebrew. So sha'il, or sha'ar, slakia, sha'ar baha baryath, slak. For the word for fish gate, or gate actually, which is the marketplace, okay. Which that's, of course, where things are being sold, okay, traded, etc., etc. Okay, so there's going to be, as it said, a noise, okay, of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. Okay, so you go into the great crashing. You got, of course, the hills being, of course, the various countries, okay, which are intertwined with Esau's system, okay. You have the various governments and stronghold, which obviously helps uphold, the whole image of the beast, okay, this whole system, okay. There's going to be a crashing. Okay, let's go on to that word for crashing, shabar in Hebrew. Okay. Which you have a crashing or a breach. Okay. A breaking or shattering. Okay. This is all you're probably seeing a financial crash written in the scriptures. Okay, it's just the scriptures written in cold and dark sayings and parables. So you have, of course, the prophets which break it down, okay, for you, so you can understand. And Dawadi Abashim Ashah for putting the spirit, obviously back into the prophets, the spirit of the prophets, the subject of the prophets. So the prophets are back now, and they're breaking down these scriptures. The prophets that will walk with Yahweh Shai, all right, who Yahweh, of course, gave this, of course, ordained them to be, all right, prophets. But before they were in the womb, knowing them, okay. So it says, how ye inhabitants of Magtesh being I believe one of the ancient, cities where merchants were, did trade and such. I believe that goes into a place in Jerusalem. Okay. Yeah, of course, this Magtesh is a city of merchants, okay, where people would bring goods to sell. All right, the marketplace, simple as that. All right, so that you get some more understanding. And going further, it says, for all thy merchant people are cut down, all that bear silver are cut off. Okay, and you see it that, Esau, Esau is losing all his merchants, okay? He's losing these countries, okay? These countries are going down. They're de-dollarizing. They're, of course, not dealing with them. They're finding other ways to conduct trade and other, of course, you say currencies, okay? Evading his whole, his normal ways of payment, okay? This is gonna, of course, lead to the desolation of Esau, Edom, his system. It says, therefore their goods shall become a booty. Or slaki, let me see. It says, it shall Well, that's basically it, Slakia. That's basically it right there. Okay, now I'm probably gonna lead off with this last scripture. Let me see. I'm gonna play some more, and then I'm probably gonna lead off with one scripture, and then I'll most likely go into part 2 of this lesson. Maybe just just going into more economics with the financial crash updates and such. Okay, so let's play the video again.
As dealers cut orders, many plants furloughed workers or reduced hours, including Renegade, which has reduced its headcount of 160 by about 10 workers since May at its 2 factories here. Okay, very small example, but just showing you the direct result. Prices increase on the equipment. They have to increase that, which the customer pays. As a result, slower sales. They gotta lay people off. Okay, that's just the way it is. I'll show you another example.
You can't pay the laborers, okay, because you're not getting any, of course, capital gain, right? You can't pay them salaries anymore.
Example of that.
Because ultimately, you'll be putting yourself back into more and more in debt, okay, if you keep yourself up. That's what a lot of these different businesses are doing. You're thinking, of course, they're staying afloat. They're just putting themselves more in debt, okay, more and more and more.
In just a moment, but here you can see this as a really good bellwether of the economy. There's no denying that at all, and I just wanted to show it to you because it highlights the information that we've been sharing here, whether it's the yield curve and so on, in a completely different way. Okay, now check out this information. The trucking sector already meets the definition of recession, 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. We are experiencing.
And that's basically it, what I'm going to bring out in this particular lesson. I'm going to leave off with this Job, this last precept, which is Job. And then I'm going to go and basically hit the Job in another lesson. This Job 20 chapter. I don't know what happened, Slakia. Job, Ayawab, which means persecuted, chapter 20. And shoot, man, it's just so heavy. It's Job. I'm just gonna do this one. Job 20:15. He hath swallowed down riches, being of course the Edomites, all right, these bankers and such, and he shall vomit them up again. The Most High shall cast them out of his belly. All right, and of course because of obviously injurious practices and such, things done by deceit, the kingdom is turned from one people unto another. So these Edomites are going to lose everything, and it's going to be turned onto the Israelites, the rightful owners, who the world was, of course, made for. All right, with that, I want to give all praise to Yahweh, Shem, and Shai, B'Shem, Kokodesh, and double honors to the elders and apostles, that great millstone. Shalom, Tilek, Shalom.